きますロスロスよっこいしょ行くぜビリット
Yeah, boy.
Before we actually get into talking about how powerful Coyote Starrk is, you guys know the drill. There are two things that you guys need to go ahead and peep before we get into this. The first of which being my Discord, which is linked in the description. If you guys have any issues with something I say in this video or any of my previous videos and you want to discuss or debate it with me, feel free to hit up that link. And if you just want to come in there and chill, that's also perfectly fine. Second order of business is the Fate Lancer class poll. I'm going to go ahead and start that. If you want to vote, it's in the upper right hand corner. The reason I'm kind of just skipping over the Archer polls and, doing one per video is because in the last polls that we did, Gilgamesh won by a landslide. I threw in some Fate Grand Order characters this time, but if I were to really go through it as an elimination style, it would take forever to get through all of those when we all know Gilgamesh is pretty much going to win in those polls. The only person that was coming close was Ishtar, but even then Gilgamesh was winning by a pretty decent margin. So we're just going to go ahead and move on to doing the Lancer class polls, and in a couple videos I'll go ahead and cover Gilgamesh. Now, Coyote Starrk is a really interesting case among the Espada because none of the other Espadas really have any longevity in terms of power in the story. However, Starrk kind of defies all that because he was lucky enough to fight Shunsui of all people. This is not only good for Starrk because Shunsui is one of the most powerful captains, but he's never implied to have trained, meaning Shunsui's been the same strength throughout the entire series. And since Starrk was able to push Shunsui, or about push him, to use his Bankai, that would actually put him on the same tier as the Sternritters. Shunsui himself admits that had Jushiro not interfered, he was about to use his Bankai, and Starrk did this pretty casually. He just started using the submachine gun basically, and right after using that, Shunsui about went into his Bankai because he was getting pressured so hard. And keep in mind here, Starrk isn't trying to kill Shunsui because he does want to see his Bankai, so he's actually holding back here and is still going to push Shunsui to use his Bankai. The same thing that the Sternritters were doing to the captains in the Quincy arc. This is even further backed up by the fact that Shunsui himself actually admits that the captains of the Gote 13 cannot beat the Quincy without the use of their Bankai. And while we wouldn't know where exactly among the Sternritters Starrk would place, because the Sternritter are captain tier, yes, but all captains are made differently. I mean, Soifun's not the same strength as, say, Kenpachi, just as Basby's not the same strength as someone like Candace. They're not all the same strength, so it'd be kind of hard to pinpoint exactly where Starrk would be, but you could say he's at least mid-tier because, again, he's fighting Shunsui, Shunsui's fighting Robert did kind of finesse Shunsui, so you could say he's at least in the mid-tier area, but nothing really higher than that. However, since the Sternritter vary greatly in strength, I'm not going to use them to scale how strong Starrk would be, because again, they vary so greatly that to actually pinpoint where he would actually be pretty impossible. So we'll just go ahead and assume, scaling off of the other Espada, that he'd be in those like Continental Plus ranges. Again, this does vary on how much stronger you think he is over the other Espada, and I'm not going to reiterate myself like I did in like the Noitor, the Grimmjow video and all those, but pretty much the bare basics of it is that Grimmjow in his Resurrection at bare minimum is already like small country level, if not much higher than that, because his Resurrection is relative to his Gran Recero, and then you just scale up from that. Now, this really starts to get juicy once we get to the speed, because Latanta was able to dodge the Aswallen, which, going off the speed that the Mime Hage went up to the Soul Palace and then how fast the Aswallen came down, plus by the fact that it's stated to be light on 2 occasions, once by Byakuya and once by Latanta herself, we can discern that the Aswallen is moving at light speeds and she was able to dodge it, that Starrk, being comparable to these characters, would be in those FTL tiers. Then we have Starrk's abilities, which aside from the standard Arrancar package of abilities like Hiero, Pesquisa, Sonido, Cero, Gran Rey Cero, Cero Asqueras, etc, etc, he does have his own unique abilities. First and foremost, he has 2 guns that fire Ceros and can even be formatted to shoot them in a submachine gun format, which Shunsui states himself that Ceros aren't enough to kill him, but Stark fires back by saying, well, if I shoot them like this, like a submachine gun, they're gonna be good enough to kill you, and that about pushed Shunsui to use his Bankai. So the pistols are really powerful. And just to go ahead and clear this up, the whole thing where he has to like reload his pistols and shoot them, that was all speculation on Shunsui's part. He doesn't actually have to do that, just to clear that up for anybody. And also, I wasn't able to find anything about him being able to shoot like 1,000 Ceros a second. I reread the manga and there's nothing like that, because about as soon as Shunsui, you know, gets hit by this ability, or quote unquote hit, Jushiro comes in and, you know, pretty much saves him. So there's nothing, I didn't find anything like that, just if anybody was curious. He's also able to create like energy Ryatu swords. I guess that's cool. I mean, it's dope, but there's nothing super special about them. They're energy katanas. So moving on. Then there's the ability that's unique to Stark, and that he can divide his soul out into these wolves that are essentially thought of to be Ceros at first, but Stark says that if they were Ceros, they wouldn't be strong enough to hurt Love and Rose. And they're pretty much like fragments of Stark's soul that he just nukes on his opponent. And these about 2-shot Love and Rose. Like, after they get hit, they're pretty much done. They don't get back up until people are starting to fight Aizen. So they're really strong, and they're also pretty quick, because after they get hit by the first ones, Love and Rose start like running away from Stark. So like, alright, we gotta go formulate a plan, and the wolves sneak up behind them. So not only are they really fast, they're also really strong. And not only that, a final thing about them is they're pretty durable too, surprisingly. Like, Love tries to like swing at him, Rose tries to swing at him to try to like tear him apart, and they just kind of reform back. So these are just really powerful weapons for Stark, and he seems to be able to use them pretty well. The final thing I want to address with Stark is actually just how smart this guy is, because people seem to be really downplaying his intelligence, and he gets to show it off 3 times. He figures out Shinsui's games when Shinsui states that he's not giving him any hints, and says that that makes Stark pretty scary. He figures out Jushiro's Shikai, even down to the medallions on his Shikai, after 3 shots, and he even figures out that Shunsui is ambidextrous just after fighting him for a little bit. Like, this guy is really smart, and he's very keen on observing his opponents, so do not downplay this guy just because he's lazy. He is scary intelligent and scary observant. And that is all that I have for you guys. If you enjoyed, please leave a like and subscribe. I'm going to be linking my boy Don Anamiga's YouTube channel down in the description, because we have a video coming out in the next couple of days on Aizen versus Dragon Ball Z. I would highly encourage that you guys go over there, subscribe, and smash those bell notifications. That way you know when that video comes out. I'm pretty hyped for it myself, so go over there, show the man some love. And with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. You guys have yourselves a nice day. Peace. Late, guys.